As we are learning more details about yesterday's shooting in Minneapolis, police say a gunman opened fire on a Catholic church where students were attending morning mass during their first week of school. 2 of those children who were killed and 17 others were injured. NBC News correspondent Shaquille Brewster has more.
Minneapolis grieving after a morning of horror.
They pulled over in a hurry, got out of the car, screaming, asking where their kids are.
A shooter opening fire on children at Annunciation Catholic School during a morning worship service marking the first week of school. Dozens of students were inside the church.
2 young children, ages 8 and 10, were killed where they sat in the pews.
17 others, mostly children, were rushed to the hospital, parents frantically racing to the scene.
This was a deliberate act of violence against innocent children and other people worshiping. The sheer cruelty and cowardice of firing into a church full of children is absolutely incomprehensible.
Police say the gunfire started just before 8:30 a.m. local time when the 23-year-old shooter wearing black approached the church armed with a shotgun, rifle, and pistol. After using a 2x4 to block 2 of the exits, they say the shooter fired dozens of shots through the church windows and toward children sitting in the pews, using all 3 weapons.
The coward that shot these victims took his own life in the rear of the church. That coward has been identified as 23-year-old Robin Westman. No prior criminal history.
10-year-old Weston Halsney was hiding inside the church.
Beside me. I was 2 seats away from the stained glass windows. So they were the shots were right next to me. I just ran under the pew and then I covered my head. My friend Victor saved me though, because he laid on top of me, but he got hit.
Your friend laid on top of you?
Yeah, and he got hit.
Is this something that you've practiced before?
Yeah, we practice it every month, or I don't know, but yeah, we've never practiced it in the church though, only in school.
Weston says his friend was taken to the hospital.
He's really brave, and I hope he's good in the hospital.
Vice President Vance calling Weston a very brave little boy. President Trump ordering flags to be flown at half-staff after speaking with Minnesota Governor Tim Walz on the phone, offering condolences.
It's my strongest desire that no state, no community, no school ever experiences a day like this.
Minneapolis Mayor Jacob Frey outraged.
Don't just say this is about thoughts and prayers right now. These kids were literally praying. It was the first week of school.
The school's principal emotional.
I love you. You're so brave. Within seconds of this situation beginning, our teachers were heroes.
Heroes of all ages stepping up in the wake of an unspeakable tragedy.
I did find my kids, and I know soon the parents are not as fortunate as these. So.
Joining us now, Democratic Senator Amy Klobuchar of Minnesota. And Senator, we're at the point where 10-year-old boys are giving play-by-plays on what happened when they were in the middle of a shooting and a child on top of him was shot, trying to protect him. And he speaks as if it was almost an expected occurrence in his life.
Mika, the kids in that room in that church, and I would also add the church leaders that were in that mass and also the teachers. You are going to hear, and I hope you do, another story that's not just within 24 hours of the acts of heroism. They saved life. Older kids saved younger kids. And I met one of the families last night that lost their little girl. The sister was there holding a stuffed bear. It's things you don't ever forget. But every one of the other kids survived because of incredible doctors and nurses at Hennepin County Medical Center and at Children's Hospital in Minneapolis and the first responders and the police. But I think one of the things I remember the Archbishop said when we were gathered yesterday outside of the school is he said, we pray, but we also pray with our feet. And what he meant was we also pray for action. And these little kids should not have to defend themselves against a murderer shooting them through church windows. But that is exactly what happened during their first week of school.
And you talk about, Senator, some of the parents. We're all parents around this table. You drop your child off at school the first day. There's a photograph that's really hit a lot of people where you have a mom who's taken off her shoes to sprint toward the school down that street, praying, hoping that her child is not among the shot, or God forbid, among the dead. So let's talk practically. And we've had this conversation for what, I don't know, 20 years now together about these morning after. What can leadership do? What can your body, the Senate, do to step in and help this? The person who carried out this shooting, the warning signs were all over the place on YouTube, on social media, legally purchased 3 guns very recently. According to police, had more guns at home as well. What more can be done from where you sit, Senator?
Well, I'm so tired of some of my colleagues who won't stand up and vote for some stricter national gun standards. And this will not hurt hunters. We're a proud hunting state in Minnesota, but it's not one size fits all for every shooting. You look at Uvalde, you look at Buffalo, you look at Connecticut, Florida, some common threads, better background checks, triggers if a number of guns are purchased at once, triggers on age, triggers on assault weapons. And one of the guns, there was a pistol, a shotgun, and a rifle used, all legally purchased in this case. But I believe one of them, the rifle, was some kind of assault weapon. And talking to the parents gathered there, including friends of mine, former employees who I'm close to that had kids in that room. One had 3 kids, watched 2 of her friends get shot, one in the stomach, one in the neck. These parents, of course, are focused, and they're focused on guns as has happened in the past. But I remember one of the Connecticut parents saying to me, you know, we had the courage through our grief that she'd lost her son to come to Washington. Is the day the background check bill went down. To do this, and we're advocating for a bill we know wouldn't have saved our babies because the guns were in the home in that place. But we know it'll save other kids. Why don't these people have the courage to stand up and vote for it? We know what's worked in other countries. We know what could work online to check for some of these things, and yet everyone is just stymied. And I am personally just about had it with how you can imagine that could be your kid in that church, your kid in that school, and it's by the grace of the God that it wasn't.
Former Republican Congressman Trey Gowdy, now a Fox News host, yesterday suggested tighter gun safety laws could be necessary following yesterday's mass shooting. Take a listen.
Our system is reactive. Something bad happens, we react to it. And what people are crying for now is how can we prevent this? How can we stop it? And the only way to stop it is to identify the shooter ahead of time or keep the weapons out of their hands. And so we're going to have a conversation of freedom versus protecting children. I mean, how many school shootings does it take before we're going to have a conversation?
How many school shootings? How many shootings in churches? How many shootings at concerts? How many shootings at country music concerts? How many shootings in street fairs? How many shootings in restaurants? How many shootings everywhere are we going to have before we can talk about common sense gun safety laws?
And I think that is the outstanding question, is that we are normalizing this. I mean, it sends chills through me when I see this 10-year-old kid talking about how they handled this killing, this shooting.
He sounded like hey, we had this training. He sounded like he was talking about boot camp.
That's right.
Oh, yeah, we trained for this in school, not in church, but yeah.
It reminded me how we used to talk about fire drills when I was going to school, and then there was a fire. This actually happened, and he was almost robotic in saying, and we did this. We're conditioning our kids to prepare for these kinds of things rather than stand against it. And Senator Klobuchar, do you think that when you see somebody like Gowdy even standing up saying we need more laws, more gun laws, why are we not seeing a bipartisan call to sit down with the president and say he's the one that can deliver the Republican votes here? He himself was shot. I mean, it has to be at some point where all of us say, wait a minute, we need to sit down and call on the president to sit down and help lead this fight. We cannot continue normalizing this.
Agree. And I was at that meeting in the White House with the president sitting directly across from him after the Florida shootings, as you remember, as Joe remembers. And he was open to background checks back there, and then he changed his mind. And I think that the president could bring those votes with him. I've asked them to work with us on this, talk to the FBI, the White House yesterday, and he could do it, but will he? And will the other Republican leadership be willing to take this on? There's absolutely no doubt, knowing my state and the proud hunting tradition, that you're not going to hurt hunting, you're not going to hurt my Uncle Dick in the deer stand by putting in some common sense rules on better background checks, on triggers when someone buys a bunch of guns, on doing something when there is assault weapons and banning certain assault weapons. And if you do all of it together as one package, you know you're going to make a difference. And they know that. And when you said the kid was robotic and was adorable but robotic, I agree, but it's because he's in shock. It's only been 24 hours. I watched those families be so stoic at Holy Angel School last night, where they held the prayer vigil with the Archbishop. And then when the principal came over and hugged that mom who just lost her child and talked to her about the last moments of that child's life and what he'd said to her, she just completely broke down. So what I saw of these families is they're being stoic, and these kids are being stoic, but their lives are never going to be the same. It is the immediate victims, but then it's the church family, it is the community, it is those around them. And as I said last night, they had these vigils after Uvalde and Buffalo. They had these vigils, Sandy Hook, and maybe this is the vigil that make a difference when they're literally gunning down children as they're praying in mass.
Yeah.
Senator, you've had a tough 24 hours. We were talking earlier.
Yes.
We were talking earlier about the fact that it's 25 years now since we've had active shooter drills in schools and workplaces, and still we have this that happened yesterday. And no one would be surprised if we were seated around this same table a week from now, 2 weeks from now, talking about another mass shooting in this country. So my question to you is, after your emotional meetings with parents who lost a child yesterday, how do you have the self-control to go back to the floor of the United States Senate and not scream at the people who are opposed to common sense legislation? Scream at them.
Well, let's just say I've gotten angry at them before, especially that background check vote. Part of it is that I have seen some change over time. As you know, we passed with Senator Murphy and Cornyn, and it included my bill that I worked on for 10 years to ban people who were convicted of domestic assault from immediately going out and buying a gun. We finally passed that on a federal level. I led that bill forever. So there is change, but it is way too incremental for these children. And so when you look at these people, you're like, okay, you got this job, but why did you get this job? And try to keep this job if it's not to make people's lives better, if it's not to tell that 10-year-old, hey, I'm going to do something for you, for your family, for your community, and for your school. So I don't know why these people run for these jobs if they don't actually want to make a difference. So I have tried that. I have gotten mad at them. And then you have to try to work with them, because right now, with the Republicans controlling both houses of government and the White House, there is no other way but to work with them. But the other way to win this is at the ballot box. And the images of those children will be etched in people's minds, not just in Minnesota, but across the country. So my hope is they do work with us, because if they don't, people are going to remember this.